you know what's fucking doing my head in? We're not going to get sued.
No, I'm not going to mention any names.
Yeah. People wrapped in plastic on a chair, put on their back, left in the middle of the street, hung up with a tower crane.
Everyone's just saying, right, I need them with X amount of hire experience, I need them with this and this, and actually, quite often it doesn't exist.
7.4% of all the industry were leaving the industry, and only 6.3 was coming in.
The banter I've had over the years, the characters I've worked with.
You say we're running a circus, Mark, is that what
The opinions expressed within this podcast are solely the individuals and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of the sponsors or its affiliates.
Digging deep, there you go. We're here.
I like it, yeah.
Hey,
nice.
do you like that?
I do like that, actually.
Like
Yeah,
that?
really good.
Yeah, bit of a pun on the, I don't know who thought that. I had a really crap one. I had Plant Boys I was thinking about, but that sounded a bit like...
That could go, yeah, it did.
That
was you in that bar,
sounds a bit fruity.
There was me in that bar, yeah. Yeah.
What's it called? The Blue Oyster.
The Blue Oyster, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a bit sad, but look,
I was thinking, right, I mean, digging deep, I really liked, but I was like, is there like another thing, like if someone's like searching, like what are you going to search for on what is it, Spotify, like in order to find a plant hire podcast? And I was like, the plant hire podcast, like would that
What, you just want to go basic on it?
Yeah, I was thinking basic. I don't, I'm not precious over anything. I think it's a good name, but I'm just throwing it out there. Like it just.
I think that's why you're in recruitment, Charlie.
Yeah. Do you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why. I think that's.
There's not many things you can do with a recruitment firm, is there?
He's taking his life in his hands here, right, with us two being recruited. The amount of fees that we've had to pay over the years.
I was going to say, yeah.
I was a bit nervous about meeting up, to be honest.
And we're still getting in on the train in today, and he pulled up and did you see that motor downstairs?
No, I didn't know. What you pulled up in?
Yeah, unbelievable, mate.
Yeah, I got a really.
So recruitment.
I don't want to embarrass me and you, Mark.
No, for the record, I got the EMR from Wellingborough and the Underground. But I drove to the station in my Bentley, so no, I'm joking.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I was going to say
he got dropped off.
That's it. We need some special rates off this guy, don't we? Because that Bentley, yeah.
But I do think it's important that we introduce everyone. So we talked about Mark there. So Charlie, how did you get into the industry?
So I fell into it really. My dad started Path Recruitment, and he had many years in the industry, obviously working for the likes of A-Plant, Travis, etc. And I ended up joining as an administrator during school as well, sort of working throughout my summer holidays, etc. And then worked my way up into the big world of recruitment, and started doing recruitment consulting and then managing the team, and then here I am as ops director. Working. We've got a team of 15 people now. And that's really how I've fallen into it, really. So it hasn't been as adventurous because I've just been in the one company, but it's good. Is
it true your dad he's got platforms in his? Because that's the rumour, isn't it? He's got like a couple of inches in his trainers.
I want to get the height.
To get the height.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I have heard that. That is a rumour going around.
You can buy them shoes now. I've seen them I've seen the adverts on YouTube. Yeah.
Because every time I see him, every time I do see him, he kind of been. It's like it's a different height. One day I'm there, and the next day I'm down there. So it's I'm just saying. I'm not saying. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about what's doing your head in this week, boys. Come on.
What's doing my head in this week? Do you know a hot topic? I know we touched on this earlier, but it's companies going bust at the moment. It's a big thing. Companies going bust, and I think predominantly they seem to be associated with demolition or house building.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's because, like, for years we've just done ridiculous things with rates, and we just, rather than get value, we've just cut each other's throat? Yeah.
Because if I always use the analogy of a sports car, right? If you bought a 13-ton excavator, right, you're looking at 130 grand, yeah. If you bought a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and you spent the equivalent amount of money on a Lamborghini, you'd rent your car out for £2,000 a week. 13-ton excavator, you're struggling to get £550 a week.
Well, yeah, it goes back to, I used to buy Komatsus, years ago, so I'm a bit older than you boys, but Komatsus, I used to buy a 20-ton excavator for 63 grand, I always remember. I used to get £650 a week for it. And they're £125,000 now. And what we're getting? £650 a week.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah.
If you're lucky.
You should be even now. You should be getting on 700. But I think especially
More
in
1,000,
the,
I reckon.
yeah, we should be, yeah. But I think the challenge we've got is what I've seen over the last few years is I've seen companies get their own in-house plant hire company. So a lot of ground workers have now got their plant hire arm, and they've got a lot of kit. They've got a lot of kit, and they brand it all up. And the trouble you've got is you've got a lot of plant hire companies as well. So you're competing with people's own plant hire, and then you're competing with all the other plant hire companies. And I think when you look at London, say specifically. I'd done an exercise some years ago, and I just chose a 1.5 3-ton excavator, and I decided how many companies in a 5 or 10 mile stretch could I get one, and I had to stop at 103. You know, the market is saturated with kit, and I think some of that is primarily because we've all benefited from low interest rates for quite a long time. So it's allowed companies to
as well
do it.
Companies have been, you know, allowed to borrow lots of money, right? So then, you know, when the interest rates increase, then, you know, that has a knock-on effect.
Have you been hit then recently, your firm?
This year we've been okay. Last year we did, yeah. We had a big one go last year. So, but of course, you know, you're now having to do, you know, the job's hard enough as it is without having to do extra due diligence to try and get the background of other companies. And no one's going to tell you they're going under or they're struggling, because obviously they want to trade out of it, don't they, if they're in a problem. So, yeah, it's really hard trying to read between the lines.
I think as well, a lot of hire companies, they have to make sure that they haven't got all their eggs in, you know, just a few baskets, right? They need to spread the risk and go to, you know, other contractors and, you know, make sure that that's sort of spread across, because obviously if just one of your companies goes bust that you're working with and it's a major player, then, you know, it can have a big effect. So,
and I think it's largely down to what you need ideally is a spread of projects.
Yeah.
So you've got government infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
You know, you've got rail, you've got power, you've got utility, you've got water, and that way, because typically sectors go up and down in activity.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing at the moment is, and this is if you look at what's going on, say in the south, if you're not involved with HS2 or Lower Thames Crossing, what are you involved with?
But don't you think, though, that the procurement people out there, they need to have a bit more of an education on what things actually cost rather than what they cost to rent? So, for example, do these people that sit in these procurement towers, do they understand the cost of equipment and what it is now, and they surely can't have it for the same price they had it for 15 years ago?
I think you're absolutely right. They don't, and what I find at the moment is there's a lot of people in procurement, and what they're doing is they're doing what I call the buy now strategy. So I ring you, I ring him, I ring them over there. What's the cheapest I can get it for? That's what it is. But I've actually met a couple of real senior procurement people, and I really admire the way they've done their work, because they're looking at what I call package value strategy. So they're looking at not what the machine costs, but what value can the company give me, or give the job, or give the project over a period of time. And they've been quite strategic in asking me, if I get these items off you, would you do this, would you do that, could we do a deal on a standby machine? By actually getting me involved early, by telling me what you're doing and how you're going to do it, and an idea of budgets and strategy, I can work with you, and then I get a fair rate, you get a great machine and a great operator and a great performance.
Well, that's the data that's come out of like projects like the A14, is it, where people are more interested in the not so much the rate of the machine, but the utilisation of the machine. Am I using that machine to its full capacity, or do I, you know, by having a transparent data spread where the client can see what the machine utilisation is and the hire company can see what utilisation is, it means that you're more likely to go to your client and say, that 14 tonner, I don't think you're getting the best value at that. Maybe you need to change that for a smaller machine because you're doing a different, you know, rather than in the old days, we would have just kept that on hire, wouldn't we? We'd have wanted that on hire.
Keep it out, whatever the rate. Yeah.
But do you know what's fucking doing my head in?
Go on. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's doing my head in. It's these double standards of equipment dealers, you know, manufacturers, OEMs, and this Chinese dumping thing that's coming in, you know, into Europe. They're trying to push through, led by the great, you know, don't get me wrong, great British brand JCB. that happen to have 3 factories, I think, in China, and all their access machinery is made in India, but they're still the ones driving forward to try and, stop the Chinese manufacturers bringing in the product. And what's really done my head in over the years, because I've been involved with Chinese products from my Armour days when we were importing Chinese products. We want to go there to bring the rate down for the client, design and build. They want a certain cost. The hire companies, we can't afford to spend 125,000 and get 650 a week. We just said that on an excavator 20.
Yeah.
But we can buy it for 70 or 80 grand and get that rate. It means that everyone's winning. But instead of like wasting all their time in legislation, that's what's doing my head in, and wasting all time whinging about it and hiding the fact that most of these European and UK manufacturers have all got factories in China and India, is maybe reduce their overheads a little bit and reduce their margins and pass that on like the Chinese have.
Yeah.
And that's what's doing my nut. It's absolutely doing my nutting. And I think it's going through the European court at the moment. Then we get out of Europe. I don't know. I thought we got out of Europe.
Do you know? See, that's another story, isn't it? Because we're obviously we've done Brexit, but now we're not in Brexit.
Nobody had a machine when we come out of COVID. No one had a machine to buy. No one was making, apart from the Chinese had a stockpile. So the Chinese manufacturers came in. We found out that the product wasn't that bad. It was actually quite good in certain areas. It's been very good. Look at the Axis divisions with Dingley and the like. They've really taken over because the quality of the product's there, and the quality of the product with and the availability of some of the major brands hasn't been there. And I thought we all lived in a capitalist world, but it seems like we only live in a capitalist world if it suits the American badge or the UK badge. And the fact that I can't think of anything that we make in the UK, can you, in construction at the moment? No. Machinery-wise, are probably like Mechalec, dumpers, probably about that's it, out of Coventry. But apart from that, so buying Mechalec boys.
But isn't it, I've often wondered, because obviously, as you said, these machines are all made abroad. When you buy the equipment, so that you've got to factor in that some of the costs that we're paying then is shipping this gear over. And I can't remember who it is now. One manufacturer part builds the machines abroad, then they go into Holland, then they're assembled in Holland, then they come to the UK as full machines.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, what does my head in about it is, but okay, then everyone turn around, every OEM have a transparency and say, well, we're not going to make anything in China or India or anywhere else. We're going to make it in Europe at least, and the UK manufacturer. And then we can then we can stop those type of products coming from. But if you can't turn around and say, to me, you can tell I'm wound up about it, Mark.
Yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it? We've got to try and solve this somehow then.
Yeah. Well, just buy what you want to buy. How about that? Isn't it?
Healthy
open
competition,
market.
right?
Buy what you want to buy.
Yeah.
If you like the machine, it's the price. Because some people buy on quality, don't they?
Yeah.
They buy on the residual value of kit. Some people, end users, buy on quality. They want a Mercedes of the world, don't they? Or a Range Rover excavator. And some people have to buy on price.
Well, that's how Louis Gong got here, wasn't it? Because Louis Gong come over from China, and a lot of the customers that I know bought Louis Gong specifically because they were a lot cheaper than what's out there now, but they did a demolition product. So why would you buy an Hitachi and send it to a demolition site? Right? You might as well buy a Louis Gong, get that smashed up on the demolition site.
And nobody, but that's what makes you laugh, because now everyone's going to criticise them for creating a market for themselves when nobody else wanted it. And they pushed themselves into that market, in that demolition market, and people said, you know what, this ain't a bad machine, it's good quality, and I want it. And now they've carved themselves a market. Everyone's going, oh, Jesus Christ, I can't get in there. But you didn't work that hard to get it in there in the first place, did you?
I've got to tell you a funny story. The funniest story, talking about Louis Gong, right? This actually happened, right?
Okay, so we're just going to stop for a couple of minutes to discuss our sponsors, Contract Plant Rental. So, Mark, what stands out about Contract Plant Rental?
I think we're a different type of business than your traditional hire business. We've got 2 areas of our business formed around a long-term option where people don't want to purchase the equipment. but you can still specify that equipment to anything you want. You can have anything on it, bells, whistles, whatever, and you can take that over a longer period of time. And we hold quite a bit of stock, so we can turn around hires long and short in a quick period of time. And then our other side of our business is we only hire to hire companies. So we have big Axis division that just hires to hire businesses. Why that stands us out a little bit is because we're not taking your work. So I can go to Mark's company. He's confident that he'll hire a piece of equipment, be it a mini digger, an Axis platform. He knows I'm not going to go and talk to his customer and try and nick that work. Because traditionally in the hire industry, you go to your competitors to rehire equipment if you haven't got it. This way you can come to us. It's unbranded. You have it in your name, long-term, short-term, from a week to 5 years, and longer sometimes, depending on the equipment. And it means that you can rest assured that we're just going to give them an excellent service without nicking your customers.
Which has been good for us, because rather than be a competitor or another company, we then have a true partner. So I can support my clients better because of the services and the equipment that I can get from Mark.
Brilliant.
A buyer I know for...
We're not going to get sued.
No, I'm not going to mention any names. A buyer I know for a certain company, right, ordered a 20-ton excavator, right? Now, in his mind, he assumed he was going to get a Volvo, Hitachi, JCB, something like that, right? So when his site rang him to let him know they've got a machine they haven't heard of before, and it was Louis Gong, he rang up the hirer and asked. He said, "As you've paid 2/3 of the cost of the machine, I'm going to pay you 2/3 of the hire rate."
But isn't that the mentality of the industry we're in?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
You know,
It just says it all, doesn't it?
Everyone's trying to nick a pound off, someone else. It's just ridiculous. And innovation and people getting up and going over to different parts of the world to look at machinery and getting that product over here, spending all that time trying to set up dealerships and everything else, and people then want a lower rate because you're paying, but they don't invest the front end, do they?
No, they don't. No.
So what's doing your head in then, Charlie? Come on, there must be loads of in your world of recruitment.
Do you know what I think? It is a staffing issue, really. I think that there's clearly not enough staff out there that
good people.
Good people. I'd probably say. I mean, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of high expectations in many companies, obviously within the hire industry, in terms of like there is that person out there, and there often there can be, but it's all about realistic expectations. And I find that there are a lot of companies out there that are wanting the absolute world for somebody, and it is achievable, but if certain things line up, so the salaries are right, for example, and their expectations are right, and
that's what's doing my head in about the staff salaries. Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
going up and up. This is a big thing, though, isn't it? And people with the cost of living, fuel, electric, all. But
you're not getting expertise, are you? I think the salaries at the moment in our industry have gone way above and beyond.
Yeah,
than what we were paying a few years ago.
Oh,
compared to inflation, for what you're getting.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think years ago there was, engineering, for example. There was, they were fairly low paid, quite a few years ago. A lot of the engineers, and over COVID, everything like that, it's jumped up considerably. But there's a lot less of them, that are qualified at the moment, and I think that's where, that whole demand is. It's almost like everyone's fighting for those key candidates, really, those key engineers. Not just engineers, lots of different roles within hire. But I think that there's not enough companies, I think, bringing new like training aspects and everything like that, and being a bit more open-minded, bringing somebody on with good skills that can mold into a hire company. And I think as a result, everyone's just saying, right, I need them with X amount of hire experience, I need them with this and this. And actually, quite often it doesn't exist. I could sit there and contact every single company within a certain mile radius within the hire industry, trying to find this perfect
We
candidate.
spoke about this when we was out that night, when we were like, there's not, how'd you get into hire?
Well,
you fall into hire, didn't you?
You do.
You either like the old traditional route of becoming, like, let's say, a speedy hire and a Sunbelt kind of hire manager is normally started when you were driving and delivery. You didn't even know what hire was. or your dad was in it.
Yeah.
That was the diff. That's how you got into hire.
Yeah.
And we and Charlie were speaking about this the other week. It's about, you know, how do we create that kind of organisation or that kind of badge, if you like, to make people want to stay in it, that they feel they've got a career, because the transferable skills within hire from other industries is there, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, it is.
Hire control. Let's take that. Negotiation, procurement.
Yeah.
You know, customer service. All things that you get from everywhere else.
But
And I think people don't look at where we. They don't look at the industry, construction as a whole, not just plant hire, as anything else but dirty, muddy.
Yeah,
crappy.
and I think if you look at the school leavers, the college leavers, I think that the trouble you've got, if you look at all, and you've named some, if you look at all the different categories, engineers, QSs, estimators, quantity surveyors, hire controllers, if you look at all the different categories of all the different roles that there are, and then you was to ask, say, I said to my daughter actually, if you was in school, and you said to all the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you that one wants to be an astronaut, fireman, all the rest of it. So if you think about it, influencing the youth to come into the industry starts at quite a young age, right? So how many kids, if you walked into a college now or school and said, who wants to drive a digger, you might get the odd one, or who wants to be an hire controller, the first question would be, what's that? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, look, we had this thing many years ago. I'll just give you an example. We done every industry has gone through it. You know, how do you recruit the right people? One set of years for 4 or 5 years, it was all about, we've got to get graduates in. It's all about the graduate, you know, and we'll get a better standard of person. And we went to the graduate show with Lynch, actually, you know, Lynch Plant. We went to the graduate show. Me and my old friend and your friend Andy Burrows.
Oh yeah.
And we set up there, and we were up against everyone in that industry, everyone in the UK's major sector, the tax office, the army, Marks and Spencers, all the big brands were there, and there was us and HSS. You know, and that just showed you how crap we are. There was not even a contractor there, by the way. And lucky enough, I had a 15-minute stand-up talk about the industry, and they was obviously all bored, walking around in the right way, and they listened, and we had quite a few applicants. 250 applicants wanted to come into our industry, and that was just with minimum effort. But I'll tell you one funny thing was coming. This guy, you know your exhibition, and I'm not saying that all students are like this, by the way. I just want to put that as a disclaimer. Yeah, but you know those students, all those grads that have been a graduate for 20 years. Yeah, they've done nothing else, but they've made a career out of it getting into university. And it was the show had just opened, and this guy walked round the corner, and big guy as well, sweating already. It was only like 9 o'clock in the morning, and you could see the sweat coming off him. And I just happened to get his eyes, and he just locked into my eyes. Oh shit, he's coming to me, isn't he? Yeah. And he plodded along, you know, down there. And the first thing he said to me, he goes, I graduated in 2010. I said, fucking hell, you took your time getting here then, mate, didn't you? But they're the type of people that are coming in, you know, that think that they can offer you something into our industry, and they just can't, can they?
No, they can't.
But like, that just showed you, like that story basically, that just shows you how rubbish we were about even thinking about graduates or getting people into our industry.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because there's a lot of companies out there that are expecting somebody with experience, but then there's a lot that necessarily they're not doing a huge amount to bring in that experience as well. So, you know, expectations are really high, but I could speak to a client that could wait 2 months, for example, to, you know, recruit a hire controller. But actually, if they brought somebody on that actually had the skills that necessarily to be a hire controller, they could have trained them in that time, you know, in the product. And bear in mind, this is like, you know, I want a hire controller that has powered access experience or plant hire experience, right? And I'm showing them a hire controller that has, you know, tool hire experience. And I appreciate it can be different, but ultimately, you know, do they have the skills? Can they do the job? Yeah, they possibly can. So, you know, bringing in and training them over that 2 month period, at the end of 2 months, you'll have a candidate that you've moulded that you're probably quite happy with, versus waiting 2-3 months for somebody to, you know, perfect to come along, which may not even exist at all. So that's what does my head in.
Yeah. I think it's an ongoing thing. I mean, I don't know how many years ago was Sam. We done our survey, didn't we? We done a survey of the operators. It was years ago. Like, you remember we tried to get a bit of an operator organisation. The machine operators.
I remember this. This was like 2012, I think.
We knew that the average. You know, I remember speaking at the Royal Institute of Engineers or something like that, and I remember then saying, you know, the average age of a dozer driver in the UK was 54 years old. I'm saying, so in 10 years' time, what are we all going to do? And there was 7.4% of all the industry were leaving the industry, and only 6.3 was coming in. So every year was at a deficit. Even though we were doing all these big things to recruit, we was at a deficit. And that's because, you know, we don't look within the industry. We had operators that might turn around and say, do you know, I've had enough of this. But when they said I've had enough of it, they get out of the cab and then they go and open a cafe, or they go and drive a taxi, or they go out of the industry, or they retrain, which is even more frustrating, to leave the industry. Rather than someone saying, do you know what, that guy's he's driven an excavator for 25 years. What a great engineer he'd make. He's got 25 years worth of construction industry. Can we train him in to be a hire controller, a ground working supervisor? I know some people do find that route, but very few find that route. We don't put that effort enough into the industry to try and bring them people through. We just...
And you've already won half the battle as well, because you've got somebody there that's passionate potentially about, you know, machinery, about the industry. And actually, if you were able to retrain them, then, you know, it would work, you know.
Ultimately, he could be a good trainer. That guy with all that 25 years experience, maybe able to train somebody else.
But also on your side, going back to what you were saying there, the recruitment thing is, I mean, the people have asked, you always get this within industry. I'm going to actually up the agency side of things at the moment. Yeah, I've said this to some of the partners. I don't think I could have grown successfully the businesses I've been working with without the support of that agency. You know, rather than the biggest skill set that I've found with you guys is that it's not the database you've got; it's the database you've got of people that have been around too long and they've let us down. You know, because that's invaluable. But how do we? And I think rather than use recruitment companies as just people that you need to get someone on a seat, you know, working with them to do what you're just saying there, they should be the forefront of the training, shouldn't they? Of getting people trained through and and working with people, which we're looking at the moment. Watch this space for another for another episode. We'll be talking about how we're going to do that, Mark.
Oh, nice.
You'll be blown away by it.
Oh, nice.
It's only an idea we've had about 20 years ago, but we were just digging it out, dusting it off.
That's it. You're going to rebrand it, are you? Get it out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the thing is with agencies is, you know, they're like a necessary evil, really, you know, to a certain degree. I think a lot of people don't.
If you use them properly. If you use them properly.
Yeah, exactly. I think that you know, using an agency properly is you know, so key. I think that working with them, realizing that they're not actually, you know, there to work against you, they're there to work with you, to understand your requirements and that type of thing is so important. And I don't think, you know, a lot of companies know how much actually we put into that one role. So when we get one role, for example, you know, it won't just be a question of, you know, sitting there and just waiting for an application to come through. It's nothing like that. You know, we are spending days and days, you know, trying to find, you know, candidates for, you know, that role, making sure that they do line up with the requirements and expectations. And if they receive somebody that, you know, they don't particularly like, it's because we have exhausted that option of the people that you do like. It's, you know, we've found everybody that there is that ticks all of your boxes, and they're not interested, or they might not be there. So, you know, So
why do you think then, both of you, why do you think that so many people then move around? Why do we see the same old pennies turning up?
Do you know what it is?
What do we do wrong in the industry? So inevitably we have to stop for 5 minutes or so and for our sponsors keep us going. So PAR for one of their sponsors. I've worked with PAR for a number of years, and as I've said before, I feel they've been a major part of our business growth strategy.
One of the key things for me is obviously when you look at other businesses, they specialise in every sector. They don't have any. There's no niche. The great thing for me is Path is the niche for our industry. The people that they've got on the books are for our industry. The vacancies that they have are for our industry. So for me and for anybody else dealing with Path, it is the go-to place for the construction and plant our industry.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the comments there, guys, and absolutely right. We that's our specialist. That's all we deal with. So we've been, established for the last 20 plus years, and ultimately we've got hundreds of clients that use us that keep coming back, and that's because we keep filling the roles. We've got a team of 13 people that are all very, very well trained and very, very knowledgeable in the industry, and ultimately, that's our bread and butter. That's what we do.
I'll tell you what it is. I'm reading a really interesting book at the moment. You'll know this book. I'm reading the Scaling Up book, and I think the key we've got here, and there's actually a number of answers to this. I could go on forever about this, but I won't. But the key thing is people in companies at the moment, right, don't know where they fit. Because they're not. So let's say a hire controller, for example. I take a hire controller on, they put the hire controller in the seat, maybe they train him, right? Have some training, get hire control in. But what that guy doesn't know is, does he really know what the plan of the company is, the ultimate plan? We're going to grow, we're going to expand, we're going to do this. No, they don't, right? Does he know what the medium or the short-term plan is? What's our goal for the end of the year? Maybe he knows that he want to hit X amount of turnover, but he doesn't know what part he plays in that turnover. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Then of course you've got the aspects of the role he's doing. Let's imagine he does the role for a while, and now he feels he's got capacity to do some more. So really, we're now at a threshold where perhaps you'd come in. Perhaps it's worth getting someone in below him to now take up some of the smaller tasks, and he could move on to more supervisory tasks.
That's because companies are still a lot of companies I've experienced with working with they're still in that old mindset of having the 5-year plan. Let's just take the company, contract plant rental where that company's growing in the last 5 years, 43% growth year on year. How can you have a 5-year plan based on that? Because it's changing so rapidly.
So many external factors.
You need to break it down. Every company should have a 12-month plan, which is easy then, and then a 90-day plan, which is then easier to then get that strategy over to the staff, isn't it?
You've hit the nail on the head. I read that last night, funnily enough. It was saying that if your business is at a point where it's growing that fast, your growth plans, your strategy, your numbers should be based on a quarter, 90 days. You should be reviewing what you're doing quarterly, which to some other businesses could equate to 5 years.
But that's easy, and that's easy to then transfer that information to staff in bite size, isn't it? Than trying to say, in 5 years' time we're going to be the biggest recruitment company, the biggest plant hire company in the world. Everyone wants to do that. But what we've been working on recently along that with staff, and we've been doing quite a lot of the leadership, and I was always against psychometric testing. It was one of them things oh God, done my head in. I remember like B&Q having real big problems where you couldn't get a job with B&Q unless you tested this psychometric test, and if you got a certain score you got to go to an interview, and they had people ringing up or doing the test. The same person would do the test 3 or 4 times and it would come out slightly different, depending on where you answer the question. So I was always really against it on the recruitment side. But I don't use it I won't use it as a recruitment side. I wouldn't say to you, Charlie, them candidates, can you get them to do this test? But what I do use them for is when they're in the job. Because one of the things I've learned over the years is that we always employ, we spend thousands of pounds, like, with agencies, don't we? And they're phenomenal fees. And but we take that person on. We've done all the due diligence. They've done the due diligence. We take the person on. 6 months later, that person's shite. How does that happen? He's the best thing since sliced bread, and then he's absolutely rubbish. And it's because of it's something that has to have happened from when he's come to our door to when he's left, because he's had a good career somewhere else, so he's been successful somewhere else. He comes to us and he doesn't make it. And in my humble opinion. It's about learning about that person and how you should communicate with that person and how they learn.
Yeah.
And then learning styles has become a big thing in our industry now. It's been accepted that, Mark, me and you was with a company and the CEO, a good company, nothing wrong with him. He used to say, look, read this book. It's about the book. Now, I couldn't read 2 pages of a book. Yeah, but if you give me a video, you showed me that in video, I know I could give it back to you parrot fashion. So that's my learning style. My learning style is not to sit down and read; it's to visualize. I'm talking normally. My hands all over the place. I'm a visual kind of person, and I understanding that as a staff member comes in, what kind of person are they? They might even be in the wrong bloody role because you found out that their learning styles is too different. But that's why you need to have several ways of doing things and training people. Video, books. Some people
just coaching, general coaching.
Yeah. How many people do you know in your life that your mates that would be jumping off a cliff without thinking about it? I know people like that. They're just fearless. Bang. That's the same in business and work. And then the next person would be looking at your mate jumping off the cliff to see how he'd done it. Work it out, and then he'd jump. And the other person would be standing there reading the instructions about how he even put the harness on before he jumped. So there's a different way and different concept. But I think we get that so wrong. And we're so fast paced in our industry that we don't give them people the time. We don't take the time to understand them and then how to develop them based on how to talk to them. Brought up like we all was when the industry started. Big Irish community, no disrespect to the Irish, great, built London, but there was a way about everyone, wasn't there? There was that kind of get on and do it. There was a way you talk to everyone, and everyone was marched the same way. It's very much an old 70s style, isn't it? Everyone walks the same way, everyone's equal, everyone does the same thing, but they're not. Everyone's different.
Yeah, and personalities, learning styles, everything.
It's trying to get that over now. It's like I know that, through my football, through my sport, that the biggest management tool I ever got was to understand. And if you love sport, you'll get this. That if you've played sport with people at any level, that that I could have a bit of banter with you and say, Mark, you're absolute dog shit today. What are you going to do about it? And you'd have the banter. But if I said that to you, Charlie, you might think, take that to heart. So you've got to understand your people.
Yeah.
You've got to understand how to treat them, how to talk to them. Everyone can't be trained the same. And people will go back to me and say, well, we ain't got time for that shit. Well, if you haven't got time for that, then you're going to have the same problem. You're going to have
it's an investment of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. I think it ties into what you were saying, Mark, as well, really nicely, because I think that, those 2 points there, together, the employee having the buy-in, to the company and, what direction they're actually going in. So, they feel like they're making a difference, and then, coupled with how they're actually, how they enjoy being trained or how they want to be trained, I think is it's priceless, really. I've actually been using Psychometrics recently as well, and they are really good. I did one myself, and it did sort of tell me, I think summarised me quite well, really.
Same here. It changed my life doing my own one. Really, it changed me. There's one section on there that says how do you talk to Mark and how not to talk to Mark.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, my mum's been looking at me. It does it.
I remember you didn't you set me up with that, and I remember you get a report at the end, don't you?
Yeah.
And you've hit the nail on the head. The interesting thing was it was the do's and don'ts as well, wasn't it? And what I found really interesting, and this one was about you, and it was about when you're in a meeting with Mark. Do hit the nail on the head. Do just come out with the facts, and then the don'ts were like, don't dither around, don't pad out the information. Just tell him what you got to tell him and shut up. Yeah. And I remember reading it thinking, oh my God, that is Mark.
Yeah, the amount of meetings I've gone into and just talks absolute bollocks, you know what I mean? And I wonder why the meeting's short, because I can't, when you understand that about yourself as well, and you see other people can understand it, then you can change and adapt your style to say, look, I'm a bit you know, and you admit things. I don't know if that's an age thing as well, but you admit more, don't you, as you get through. But yeah, so, you know, just going on about what's doing your head in there with things there, Charlie. What as your industry, what have you seen in changes in you know, with platforms like LinkedIn coming in and all these things? How would you define how that's made your life more difficult or easier? I don't know.
Well, I think going back like 5-6 years ago, LinkedIn was quite a scary tool really for a recruiter, because you didn't really know whether it was going to end up, you know, impacting your business, whether, you know, people will end up just going direct to you know, the companies. You can find out, you know, who the best people to contact are on LinkedIn quite easily. But I think, you know, as an agency, we had no choice. We had to embrace it as much as we can. And I think that where it's probably affected us, I think it's benefited us, you know, quite a lot. You know, we've got all the, you know, the up to date, you know, LinkedIn plugins, everything like that, you know, to help us spot, you know, different candidates. I think that it's just been a tool that we've been able to use to our advantage. I think that in terms of, you know, how other people use it, you know, maybe to a certain degree, you know, companies have probably nipped at our heels because they may have found their own staff in different ways due to LinkedIn. But what LinkedIn doesn't take out of the equation is all of the messing about and everything like that you end up, you know, getting from, you know, many different candidates.
I actually find it a spamming tool now.
Yeah.
Years ago, you used to have a ranking system. You could see where you ranked in the world, like on how much effort you put onto your LinkedIn profile. And you were sold the dream that you were building your profile to be attractive to employers, if you like, you know, that might want your skills. But now, I'll tell you what, I must get 20 spams a day, like through messaging saying, oh, I want to connect to you. And really, it's like you need a set up message that say, I don't mind connecting, but don't sell me nothing.
Yeah. Do you know what? We talk about what's doing your head in, right? Yeah. And I got to say this. Right? I got to say this. Talking about LinkedIn and that, I'll tell you what does my head in, right? And I feel like I've been done, like mugged in some way. Do you ever get the guy that connects to you and you put, oh yeah, connect, and then with literally before you've blinked your eye, there's a message. And
10 pages long.
10 and they got to get that, right? I don't know if we're not in the 70s. You're not selling me double glazed windows, right? I don't need 10 pages. In fact, who reads 10 pages, right? I just want. Why don't you just say, "Hi, Mark. Thanks for connecting."
It's like one of those American videos, you know. You know it's an American video when you see something on social media and think, I quite like that. And it takes 25 minutes to read the fucking video just for the guy to say, press the button, I'll give you 10% off. Tell me how much it is. I'm already interested in the product.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn's very much like that now.
But it's because I think what's happened with LinkedIn, it's evolved to a big commercial money owner forum, because when LinkedIn first came out, a bit like, I don't know if you remember the early stages of Facebook. The early stages of Facebook, you could see your mates, you could see what you've posted, you could see what they've posted. It was quite basic. You could message, you could.
Did you think, like, because this is a whole new thing, we'll talk about it in the next few weeks or something, but, you know, social media as a whole, I'm one of them, I've always been one of those major doubters. You know, even though I've got a whole big department with people that do nothing but social media, and what we're doing today is the same thing. It's like, I don't get it. I'd like to know the real benefits for general companies. I'm not talking about people that sell stuff online that need to be there, you know, or your major high stop shops. But I'd like to see the real benefits when you go out your way to post your digger moving, which is what we spoke about the other day. It's all the same, innit? A digger moving left to right, you know, someone standing there, you know, doing whatever they're doing.
Here's another digger, here's another dumper. And I'll tell you what, you've hit the nail on the head,
Does it get anything
right?
from there? Do you
No, because and this is where I think...
from your social media?
Yeah, I think we do. I do. I think that it depends on what you post. You have to be really careful in terms of what you're actually posting, because some of the stuff will just go, you know, it'll be looked at as just horrendous or whatever. But
you risk posting noise. That's what I'm trying to say.
But don't you think there's a lot of noise there?
That's what I'm saying. There is too much.
Has it done its failing, do you reckon? We'll talk about this in depth, and I don't know. But do you
I've actually written my own one.
What, your own thesis?
Social media platform.
Have you?
Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah. I wanted to learn PHP and SQL a little while ago. And
we really need another fucking social media.
I challenged myself. I challenged myself to write quite a basic one that works. It's live now. I'll plug that at the end, will I? But yeah, it was part of the challenge to learn.
What's it called? Footbook?
I actually call it Moments.
Moments.
That's what I actually called it, yeah. But yeah.
Moments.
Well, Facebook was already taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then, yeah, so clearly, obviously, we know nothing about social media. Charlie sounds like he knows a little bit more, but we were in a different era, Mark, weren't we? You know?
Yeah. We used to pick up the phone and call.
What we'll have to do is we'll have to get one of those experts on social media in and talk to them and see what the benefits and how people can help themselves out. I mean, because there's two types, isn't there? There's your personal profile, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's obviously important. And your business profile, but...
And personal branding as well, just to throw one in the mix there.
That's a recruitment thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know, is it? Because ultimately, if you're a salesperson as well, do you work for a plant hire company, do you want a strong personal brand? So I'd say yeah.
Yeah, do you... Because I did see something come out before. A few times people have attempted to do like live CVs. Have you ever?
CV?
Yeah, where you're
like
standing there and a video of me saying how great I am.
Yeah.
And you presenting that to the customer. Is that something that the
who's got
industry's
the time
moving towards?
To watch that? No, I don't think so. It might be like, it might work if you were like, I don't know, applying for like a really specific job and there weren't many applications, or I don't know, maybe there was too many and you'd have it on your CV. Let's just say like it's a QR code on your CV. Maybe that would be a nice touch, but I don't think it's going to add
give all your
major.
secrets away.
That's actually pretty cool, isn't it? A QR code on your CV.
Yeah, that'd be
But
good.
you could have more about me, and the guy clicks it, and you go, "Oh, I like building Lego."
Yeah. And if you're up against someone, you see his CV on the side. You just swap the QR code for like Pornhub or something like that. You know what I mean? To get him.
They go. He's got issues. That guy.
Yeah. Well, I always like what the guy from the office said. He said I never employ unlucky people. So what I do is take 50% of the CVs and throw them in the bin.
Yeah, I like that.
That's quality. Yeah.
We don't do that. Path recruitment.
I'll tell you, I don't know who you got to sleep with around here to get a cup of tea though. But Rianne's like Uber Eats for service.
Did we order a coffee?
At this rate, it's going to be an iced coffee.
Is it? Yeah. So that would be an interesting concept, wouldn't it? Because you should be out. Everyone takes that chance. That's the way that it's moving, is it? Amazon, Uber. Imagine that sending a digger over, Mark, to me, and I'm like, I didn't want that one. I want a refund. Press the button.
I didn't receive it.
Yeah. Didn't get that package. Yeah.
But I've often wondered if it'll end up going that way. I think there's a lot of extras you can get with diggers, like bladed buckets, tooth buckets, and of course there's all the safety features. And I've often wondered, I know there are people trying to do it, but do you think the future for that would go? Would you order a digger online? Is what I'm trying to say. So if you imagine you're
look, how many years you go way back to when I started out, you wouldn't have sold a digger unless the guy had come and kicked the tyres. So second hand. Yeah. But now they buy them sitting out anywhere around the world online. So I can't see why not. There's the super easy tool hire thing that's going from our friend in the skies, EasyJet. He's trying to do a similar thing. There's a few people trying to do things online. The trouble is like who's responsible for the man in the middle? Who's actually responsible for looking after your kit?
Insurance side of things and all that.
Tesla did the same thing, didn't they, with their cars? Because you can just buy a Tesla online now, can't you?
Mercedes, you can do that.
Yeah, I guess you can do it on Mercedes now, but yeah.
I think what makes it difficult, certainly in and around London, is you got obviously the emissions. You got batteries. JCB talking about hydrogen. What do you buy? Because I think we're at a turning point now where it's going. Do you buy electric? Do you wait for JCB to release the hydrogen? Do you not?
Well, we're gonna have a whole thing on that. We're gonna have a whole episode on that because it's an interesting concept. Because I think that we all know the problems we've got with the infrastructure on sites, and where we're going with that. But yeah, I think it's a whole different episode, Mark. On we could talk about hydrogen, electric, water powered, you name it.
That's it. Yeah, I'm up for that. We'll do a alternative fuel special, shall we?
Yeah, because I'd like to get a couple of experts in on the pod, like to just talk about, because we're speculators, aren't we? We're people that read stuff, gurgitate it, probably get it wrong, and then spurt out bad information. But I think Yeah, I think that getting a couple of experts in that are actual experts rather than people trying to sell you what they want to sell, you know. And you can see the Asian market why it's fully electric, because the price of electrics over there is like probably about 10% the cost of it over here. So it makes sense. But over here, you know, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, you know, what the government are doing about, you know, different things without being too serious about it.
Yeah.
Too serious, you know. So you heard about that bloke, and you guys, that has decided, like back end of last year, I don't know if he's completed it yet, to build an actual replica of Stonehenge in his back garden. Yeah? Right. Now, do you reckon that guy's an architect
Or insane.
or dumper driver?
Do you know what?
Or
right?
where does he sit in the hierarchy? Not that, no disrespect to dumper drivers, but you know, they're not quite an architect, are they? And they've got a different mentality, haven't they, than an architect, perhaps.
So he just wants to build.
Or do you think it's an architect that wants to be a dumper driver?
I think
or a dumper driver wants to be an architect?
I think you'll find no, I don't think it's an architect, because I think he's probably maxed out. He's probably doing surfing or something like that. It's someone who wants to do something architecturally, right? So it's a guy. I don't what he's got with Stonehenge.
But what do you think he's getting out of it, though? What do you think?
Well, it's easy, isn't it? Stonehenge is just a load of Lego blocks, isn't it? So if you're going to build something in your garden, right, you could say, I'm going to do my patio and...
How big's his garden?
Well, it depends what scale he's going to. I mean...
Yeah, I guess
no, it's a full scale. It's meant to be a full
You're joking.
replica, yeah. I mean, what equipment are you bringing to that site, Mark? What are you using there to...
Well, you need a few excavators, wouldn't you, to move that stuff around, wouldn't you, to lift that into place? You might even need one of our IAB lorries to move that about, place it in its place. But what? So he's building a full-scale replica of Stonehenge out of telegraph poles. Is that what we're saying?
Out of telegraph poles.
Is that what we said?
Is that what it said? Yeah.
Out of telegraph poles. So...
Yeah.
So what? So
I reckon he had a job lot, didn't he? He had a telecom... I mean, he's a telecom engineer, didn't he? Or he's a contractor,
Yeah,
you know, that was doing a load of BT lines and lost the contract. And his wife said, you better move them off the fucking front drive, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Either that, or you know what it is? He's got jealous of his mate, who's a carpenter, and his mate knocks up a few lovely chairs and tables, and I bet they've had a drink together, and he's gone, I'm going to do something that's going to shut you up, mate. Yeah. I got something special for you. And what he don't know is, when he wakes up in the morning, he's going to have a wooden telegraph pole Stonehenge out the back.
But this is what makes so colourful the industry, isn't it? Because you've got characters in this industry. I think when people are trying to encourage people into construction and plant hire, they got to know that this is where we hide these people away. We need to celebrate these kind of characters, don't we? These people on site, and these you know, what great. Well, it's done us all right for the last so many years in the industry. You know, we've done just. People don't think they realise how much fun it can be as well, in a safe way.
Do you know what? It's a great crack. A friend of mine, his son had a few jobs, and I think he worked in a bank. He'd worked for he'd done all sorts of jobs, and he said to me, "Oh, do you think you might have something for my son? He's struggling to sort of settle into something. He's finished uni and all the rest of it." And I said, "Look, I might have something for him in plant hire." I said, "But what I will say is, no 2 days are the same. There's people are hurling abuse at one another, and you've got to be nuts to enjoy it." And he said, "That sounds like my son." And I actually got him in as an apprentice, and I'm pleased to say he's doing really well, and he's been there. I think he's been there 5 years now.
Wow.
And he loves it.
Good.
So I think you know, you can have loads of fun in plant hire. Absolutely loads of fun, construction and plant hire. And I think one of the analogies I use is if you worked in a bank, just imagine how kind of like straightforward that could be. You know, at your desk, you can't make too much noise. You got to do what you got to do. The banter I've had over the years, the characters I've worked with.
You say we're running a circus, Mark? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It is. Do you know what? I still tell people stories about people I've worked with right? You know,
Oh, yeah,
I've
look.
even got nicknames. I worked with a guy called, we won't go into it on this, but I worked with a guy who we all nicknamed the Naked Man for obvious reasons. Would I go into Barclays and work with that guy? No. So I love Plant Hire for the sheer characters I've met over the years. John, what about our mate John? If you asked for something after 3 o'clock, he was in trouble, wouldn't you? Do you remember that?
Absolutely, yeah. It'd be, it'd be asleep. There's a, I suppose, and that's, I suppose, on the serious note, that's what I've always, one of my pet hates, when we go into education a bit more, is in another time, but one of my pet hates was always when we restructured the apprentice scheme for construction, we insisted that everyone had a level of maths and English, you know, academically, whereas the industry was built of people that fell out of that a little bit. They were the, you know, I was one of them, the bottom 30% of the class, really, that wasn't that academically, you know, brilliant, you know, found their way into construction and Plant Hire, but they're not stupid people. Look what we built.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, that's one of my pet hates about that. But yeah, it's a great industry, absolutely. We've got some hilarious stories to tell over the next coming times, because we know some characters. Some we probably can't, shouldn't, or can't, or can we? I don't know.
We can leave the names out, can't we? Yeah, we'll leave the
the names out.
Yeah, we'll give them a fake name.
Yeah, that's what we do. We give them a fake name. Yeah, we give them a name that suits what was going on, like the Naked Man.
Yeah. Well, I remember I worked on I can't even tell you the company they work for, but we're here today at Bow Road, so we're a stone's throw away from West Ham Stadium, and I worked in Bow on this site, and our job was to bring down the old-fashioned buildings, these like flats. They were like masonette flats, a couple of stories high, and they had these really big chimney stacks, and I'm talking about they were 3 or 4 meters above the roof line. And our job as an apprentice, or we young lads, was to bring that chimney stack down to about you know a reasonable size, and put the old chimney flues in down the stack into the back of the gas fires. Remember them old-fashioned gas fires used to get?
Oh, with the bars? You mean with the bars?
Yeah, the real bad.
Yeah.
Well, they were gas ones, but you know the old-fashioned ones your nan used to have in the thing. And I was a carpenter, so the only job I was able to do was to take the chimney off and board up the hole, to cut the board into the hole and tape it. That was my job. I don't know why. It's not really carpentry. But what we did is we tried it the first way. To get the flue down, you had to sweep the chimney. So we took the gas fire off, the first one off, and it's got this little metal aluminium plate behind it with like a little letterbox where it used to fix into. We took that down and started sweeping it. And we were young lads, it was hard work. Fuck that. We was like, no, there's got to be an easier way. So as you do, innovation in construction, someone said, why don't we sweep the chimney from the top? Sweep it down, you know, off it goes. I won't say his name, Hutch, but Hutch was there on the top of the roof there, and he's sweeping the chimney down. And we thought, obviously, we're going to cause a lot of trouble in someone's house. These are people living in the houses there, you know, carpeted and everything. So that's where I came in my little bit of carpentry. So we would take the fire off with the metal thing, and then I would tape that up. They'd sweep it down. Then I would stick the hoover and hoover it up. Brilliant work.
So did you build a box?
No, just put a little bit of tape over the grey tape over the little box bit, yeah, because it was fixed already. But in the bedroom, they had them old-fashioned grills, you know, them old-fashioned fire where you put the logs in, metal, like fireplaces, basically. So I had to cut a board on that one and stick it on. So then they'd sweep it down, and it would, and then same thing, working fine. So Hutch decides, well, you know what? I'm going to wind up our Mark down there. I'm going to get him going. I'm going to crap down one of the chimney stacks. So when he comes to hoover that out, yeah, he's gonna find that package for him. But what he didn't realise was halfway through the block, the chimney stacks were going quite well. You knew what the front room was, where the gas fire was, and you knew where the bedroom was. But they swapped halfway through. So I knocked on this guy's door. And I said, I've come to do your thing. He goes, yeah, I've been expecting you. And I'll tell you what, I mean, no disrespect to the place we were in Bow, but it was some of the houses, you know, wouldn't have, if you'd lost the soot in the house, you probably wouldn't have known any different.
Was that bad, was it? Yeah.
But this was immaculate, this place. It was absolutely immaculate. White carpet, the lot, cream carpet. So I thought, oh, here we go, you know. So I put the little shoe slips on, gone in there, he's okay. And as I'm talking to him, he's in the door of the bedroom. I've seen this little lump of whatever you can call it from Hutch, yeah, drop into the bedroom. He's thinking I'm going to put it behind the gas fire, and he's not going to see it, but it didn't. It dropped into the open fire.
Oh my!
Here we go. The guy there, he turned round and he had a look. He went, "Oh," he said, "I'm really sorry." He said, "I think the cat's had a bit of a crap. I'm going to have to clean it up." I've seen it drop out the chimney stack. So he's gone and swept it up. But just as he swept it up and walked out, there's another bit dropped down in. And this poor cat, who's minding his own fucking business, just walking down the corridor, just like that, he's gone, oh, he's booted this cat. You couldn't believe it. Well, I'm laughing, and I'm absolutely hysterical. So as you come out the front door of the flat, there's a big long balcony that's, you know them style of places, they've got big long walkways. I'm laughing and I'm hanging over the edge. And they're at the top there going, and I'm going, no, I can't talk. So they think, they thought, I'm okay to go. So I've started sweeping the chimney down the thing. Obviously, I haven't done anything. I haven't covered it or nothing because I've been laughing my head off. And the fucking soot comes steaming down the house. And I'm telling you, the bloke came out, you know, one of them cartoons. He was completely black. The whole place was covered
like
in
Dick
soot.
Van Dyke with him, Tim Giroux.
Unbelievable, yeah. The whole house. There must have been 2 inches of soot, right, which is probably not the case, but it looked like that, over all this carpet, all up the walls. The whole flat was absolutely mangled, you know what I mean? We obviously got fired from that job, you know what I mean, and had to pay compensation, but yeah, God, they're one of they're the type of characters though. You can't have now on site, but you could get away with it, and I've got loads of them type of stories, don't I?
I worked in I won't say where I was working. I worked in a place, and I got on well with a guy in the workshop, and my back used to I used to face the back of the workshop door. And the door would open, and I'd get Mark, right? And I think, well, I'd be on the phone sometimes. I think, what's he on? And he'd whisper to me, "Back to the Future." Right? And I go, I'd be looking behind me, going, "What's he on about? Back to the Future?" And I used to ignore it for a while, because thinking, I ain't got time for this. And then the door would open again, "Mark, Back to the Future," and all this. And I thought, so in the end, I had all these requisitions I had to take out. So I've gone out the back. I'm standing in the middle of this workshop. And the next thing, 2 lines of fire have made their way up the workshop and gone either side of me, like the DeLorean had gone through the workshop. And this young lad, what he'd been doing, there were these sprays, these I don't know what they were, but these sprays were flammable. And he'd been going up and down the workshop, making a big puddle of this stuff, and then trying to get me to come out, Back to the Future, and lie. Honestly, you get sacked for that now, wouldn't you? But he's been waiting for me with 2 lighters to come out, and he's gone.
Well, what they used to do to apprentices, I mean, I was an apprentice myself, you know, like what I've seen. I mean, people wrapped in plastic on a chair, and put on their back, and left in the middle of the street, hung up with a tower crane. You know, I've seen that, or someone in the toilet and lifted up in the tower crane. I mean, that
I've got loads of,
it's not doesn't happen anymore, but in the old days it used to be, or the older days. I'm not that old actually.
You're not allowed to do it now. It's all compliance and health and safety.
Taking the fun away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also probably the accidents.
It has, yeah.
Oh yeah, it saved a few lives probably.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is the important thing.
Yeah,
that's what I said earlier. Though, you know, the construction industry is heavily compliant, health and safety, isn't it? Brilliant. But we still like to have a look at someone fall over.
Yeah.
You know, we still have that humour, don't we, in the UK construction industry, where someone has an accident, you think, as long as it's not too serious, that's quite funny.
Yeah. The video that made me laugh recently, have you seen this? The video, it looks like they're in a house, and you know when you're building a house, you have sometimes you get probably the size of this sort of coffee cup. You get a stack just coming up, and they might feed the cables through, mightn't they?
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what that is, 6 inches. So one of these is a real stack that's concreted in place, right? And then they've got 3 other ones that are just loose. and they've called their mate in. There's 4 of them. They've called their mate in, and there's obviously a window that's not been put in yet. And they've said to him, "We're going to take it in turns to boot the bits of plastic through the window." So the first guy hits the one that's just placed there. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
The second guy, the third guy, the poor fourth guy, he's kicked the stack that's fixed.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all right?